The story begins when a miserably broke animal doctor, Jean, gets accidentally summoned instead of some beautiful spirit of healing. One of the dragons, known as the Great Master of Time, heard about a legend that there is a spirit who is said to possess overwhelming beauty and power. Hoping the spirit might be kind enough to heal his pet Catless, he decides to summon it. The mighty dragon begins the ritual and offers a worthy reward in return for the spirit's aid, but instead of the dazzling figure he expected, Jean appears clutching his pillow and blanket. The dragon looks disappointed and wonders if humans have truly fallen so far that this is now considered a beauty standard, though he decides not to judge by looks since ability matters more than such odd standards. He respectfully calls the boy a spirit of healing and asks him to lend his strength, while Jean stands there wondering if he has finally died. He's a 32-year-old veterinarian who wasted 2 years in pre-vet and another 4 in vet school, only to end up with miserable luck. After earning his license, he spent 3 years working at an underpaid job where people constantly brought in their pets to dump the responsibility on the poor doctor. After failing to hold down a proper job, he finally gathered the courage to open his own clinic, but Lady Luck never glanced his way. Not a single customer came through the door, and to make things worse, the light on his clinic sign went out, leaving his surname in darkness. Loan interest and rent kept piling up until the weight nearly crushed him, and just when he thought he would die under the pressure, he suddenly woke up in a dragon's den with a magic circle glowing beneath him. He wonders if he had suffered a heart attack in his sleep and ended up in hell, since the frozen cave with a giant vicious lizard standing before him fits the picture all too well. Jean asks the dragon what will happen to him, and the dragon calmly replies that all he wants is for him to treat his pet. Hearing this, Jean feels certain he has landed in hell after all, because even after death he couldn't escape veterinary work. He imagines the dragon's pet as some terrifying gatekeeper of hell-type monster, but instead the dragon gently presents a half-dead, introverted fruit bat and even asks if it looks cute. Jean glances at the creature and immediately sees that it has been drained of nearly all its energy. The moment he picks up the bat, his vet instincts kick in, and like any average doctor, he begins taking its history, asking for its name and how long the dragon has been raising it. The Great Master of Time explains that the bat is named Catless and admits that keeping pets has recently become a trend among dragons, which is why he decided to get one just a week ago. At a dragon gathering, the others were bragging about how impressive their pets were, and feeling left out, he had spotted this cute bat at the entrance of a cave and simply caught it. Jean can barely stand hearing this and instantly places the dragon into his second most hated category of pet owners, the ones who adopt animals only because of some ongoing trend. Still, he continues the checkup and points out that the little guy looks very skinny. When he asks if the bat is eating properly, the dragon replies that it barely eats at all. He says he hunts fresh animals every day and offers their blood, but the bat refuses to touch the meals. Just then, Jean feels a trauma flashback coming on, as the dragon now fits right into his top 5 most hated types of owners, the kind who bring pets home without learning a single thing about them. The dragon looks worried and asks if the illness is serious or if he should fetch a better blood meal. The vet explains firmly that the poor creature is a fruit bat, which is why it will never eat blood. The dragon insists that his fellow dragons said their bats drink blood, and at that Jean loses his temper and shouts as he explains the difference between species, accusing the dragon of starving his pet for an entire week. Ashamed, the dragon lowers himself while Jean continues lecturing him, making it clear that anyone who plans to raise a living being should at least take the responsibility to study about it. Just then, Jean panics again when he notices the bat feels unusually cold. The dragon casually explains that he is an ice dragon, which only fuels another round of scolding as Jean tells him to stop raising pets if he cannot provide the right environment, or better yet, to go find himself a penguin instead. The mighty Master of Time feels shaken by the words of the so-called legendary spirit of healing, while Jean is only worrying about the pets, wondering if they are treated like fashion accessories. The dragon wants to put the arrogant boy in his place for daring to act so boldly against a being as mighty as himself that he knows he has no right after what he has done, even while claiming to love nature. Looking at the bat, he finally understands that he should have taken responsibility. He gently picks it up and humbly apologizes, promising to bring fresh fruit and return it to where it belongs. Admitting at last that the bat's happiness matters more than his greed, he thanks the little creature for everything. Jean, watching this, begins to feel that this version of hell is more reasonable than the one he had imagined. The dragon then thanks him for the wake-up call and asks him to make a wish, since the promised price must still be paid for borrowing his power. The boy half-jokingly wishes to be reborn as an Arab oil prince or some villain's heir, but the dragon fails to understand a single word, assuming it must be some unknown spirit realm language. Deciding for himself, the dragon grants the boy a magical artifact carrying his divine powers, telling him that he may create whatever he pleases with it, so long as his intentions remain pure. The dragon thanks the so-called spirit and sends him back, while Ojin wonders if this is really the afterlife. In that moment, he realizes it feels more like something straight out of a comic, so he quickly shouts that if he is going to come back to life, then at least send him back to the days when Bitcoin was dirt cheap. As he is transported, Ojin regrets losing what could have been a once-in-a-lifetime chance to turn his life around. A flood of wishes runs through his mind, from golden land plots to Terra stock shooting back up, and he argues with himself that he should have trained to make wishes faster. Instead, all he got from being summoned was a useless-looking necklace stuffed with some weird dragon powers that he doubts he can even use. Staring at the necklace, he grows more certain the dragon was a complete scam artist, since he never explained how to use it. Just then, Ojin gets shoved aside while sitting in the middle of an alley. Blinking in disbelief, he looks around, and when someone shoulder bumps him again, he wonders if he has actually been isekai'd or if this is some strange possession. He wonders to himself that if the dragon claimed to have sent him back home, then what exactly is this place? A fruit stall lady calls him a handsome man and asks if he would like to buy some of her fruits. To confirm his suspicion, Ojin asks the lady where he is. She notices his odd clothing and assumes he must be a traveler, then explains that this is the Belmore region lying south of Baron Doyle's domain. When she asks where he is from, the vet quietly curses the dragon before replying that he comes from a place far away. Just then, a giant rabbit appears and begins devouring entire crates of carrots. Its name is Elizabeth, and its trait makes it eat excessively whenever it feels stressed, which seems to be the case now. The people around panic and rush away, while Ojin mutters if it is normal for monsters to stroll casually through towns. The fruit stall lady quickly explains that it is Lord Belmore's pet rabbit and urges him to run as well. Before Ojin can even consider escaping, he hears the cry of a small girl who is about to be swallowed up as the rabbit's next meal. Ojin rushes forward and pulls the girl away just before she can be bitten to death by the rabbit. He quickly asks if she is alright, but before he can even take credit for saving someone, both of them end up cornered as the giant rabbit prepares to make both of them its meal this time. Ojin squeezes his eyes shut, convincing himself this isn't his fault and cursing the owner for not keeping such a massive pet on a leash if he plans to bring it into town. At that exact moment, a strange power bursts out from the necklace and forms a leash around the rabbit, exactly as the boy had just imagined. The crowd watches in awe, mistaking the act for magic, and they begin to wonder if the man before them is some kind of wizard, praising him for taking down the beast in a single move. Even the fruit lady remarks that she thought he was just a random traveler, but it turns out he is a magician. Ojin himself is left confused, realizing he somehow caught the monstrous rabbit in the heat of the moment, and now he wonders what exactly his situation has become. Just then, the chubby Santa Claus' ugly brother comes running toward the rabbit, calling out how worried he was for it and even referring to himself as its dad. He angrily scolds his butlers for being so clumsy that they could not even catch a rabbit, and the moment he sees Elizabeth tied up, he completely freaks out, demanding to know who dared to do this to her. Lord Belmore scolds Ojin once he realizes he must be responsible, and the boy quickly apologizes for restraining the rabbit without permission, but explains that a little girl almost died because of it. The fat daddy clutches Elizabeth tightly, insisting that there is no way his precious baby could ever do such a thing, and demands that Ojin release her at once. Losing his patience, the vet snaps back and tells Belmore to stick his own head in her mouth if he is so confident. He immediately ranks the fat lord among his fourth most hated type of pet owners, the ones convinced their dangerous animals could never go wild. Bursting with anger, he lectures the area lord on just how strong a rabbit's bite really is, warning him that Elizabeth could crush his skull as if it were a boiled potato. The sight of the local lord being overwhelmed draws plenty of attention, and the fruit lady, along with her sibling, cheer for Ojin, clearly enjoying seeing someone finally stand up to Belmore. Realizing he may have said a bit too much, the boy calms down. But when his eyes fall on the rabbit's ears, he notices she is actually a lop-eared rabbit, a breed that should not be taken on long walks and especially not dragged into crowded places. He asks the pet owner if Elizabeth has ever shown signs of self-harm or aggression. Lord Belmore looks at him in surprise and demands to know how he could tell, but the veterinary doctor continues, explaining that this behavior appears when rabbits are under heavy stress. He warns the fat lord that if he keeps this up, Elizabeth will end up with a very short lifespan. Unable to bear hearing that his precious baby might die soon, Belmore grows concerned, and Ojin firmly tells him to stop these ridiculous walks if he wants her to live. The Lord argues that without walks, how will she get exercise, and the vet calmly answers that it is completely possible to provide that at home. He acknowledges that the Lord must truly love his so-called daughter, but reminds him that these rabbits are extremely sensitive, and what matters most is raising them properly with knowledge and care. The area lord then remarks that the boy must love rabbits deeply to know so much about them. Tears start rolling down his face as he explains that people have always looked down on him, saying only noble ladies should raise rabbits, and he never thought he would meet such a fine rabbit enthusiast. He asks if the boy is in this line of work, then orders his butler to bring out a reward of gold coins for Eugene. Lord Belmore requests our guy to check on his baby girl's health once in a while and takes her away, promising some tasty hay as he lets her rest. As the Lord leaves, everyone gathers around to appreciate our boy for managing to send the crazy Lord packing. They complain that they have been suffering a lot because of that annoying rabbit, and the fruit lady tells our guy that she's going to throw in a special discount since they can finally do business in peace. Eugene argues that he does not have any money, but the lady reminds him of the coins the Lord loaded him up with. She admits that even though that chubby geezer is a pain, the one thing he does have is money. Eugene takes out the gold coins and reflexively starts chewing on them. His eyes glint as he wonders how much they would be worth if he took them back to Earth. With that thought, he decides to open a second branch here and use the money he earns to pay off all the debts from his first branch. As the scene shifts, Eugene has finally opened up his isekai branch and is now taking interviews of some people to hire them for his clinic staff. It happened that when Lord Belmore learned that our boy was planning on settling here, he quickly approached him and asked if he needed any land or money. The guy literally prepared a whole new clinic, and Eugene's second branch opened early. The boy finally realized just how important these connections are, irrespective of which world it is. The only issue in this new branch was that there were tons of these rabbit supplies, but Eugene didn't pay much attention, considering he got all of them for free. Now the last thing left is to make his new business bloom, and since he doesn't know much about this place after the dragon dropped him here randomly, he puts up a job opportunity and begins the hiring for a veterinary technician. The scene returns to the present where the job interview has finally begun, and there are 4 candidates who have applied for this post. Firstly, there is Thomas, whose intro begins with his family structure and just how strict his dad could be. His plus point is his strong physique, although he looks as if a gust of wind should be enough to deal with him. Kenyon finds zero interest here and moves to the second candidate, named Philip, who couldn't be more scary as his family has been operating a butcher shop for generations. When he takes out a butcher knife, Eugene immediately writes a remark to make sure to call the police on this weirdo and quickly moves ahead. The third guy is way scarier and gives some serious serial killer vibes. Eugene decides not to judge someone by his appearance, but the guy jumps at him like some maniac and begs for him to use him as his doormat. Apparently, he has learned from somewhere that Eugene is some famous wizard and has come all the way here in a desperate search for him. Eugene instantly turns the guy down and thinks that maybe he should really start judging people by their looks. Just then, the last candidate asks when her turn is, and when she offers to clean up the mess, Eugene allows it, and she punches the maniac away, introducing herself as Selena. She further briefs that she is a roaming animal expert who is more than capable of handling basic treatments. Eugene doesn't even take a second and quickly hires Selena. The next day, while Mr. Doctor is soaking up the warm sunshine in his cozy workplace, he grumbles about the new technician being late on her very first day. Just as he considers posting a new job ad, there is a knock at the door. Eugene goes to open it, half expecting Selena to quit already. But instead, it turns out to be their first customer. From his past life experiences, Eugene has cooked up a foolproof plan to hack straight into a customer's wallet. He starts by asking about the pet and gets introduced to Pojak, which the customer proudly calls a cute lizard. After seeing that oversized rabbit earlier, Eugene was convinced that all animals in this world had to be strange, but this time he feels lucky that his first patient turns out to be nothing more than a regular lizard. The customer keeps going on about how cute his lizard is, which almost makes our guy snap, but the memory of his crushing loan debt from the previous world forces him to swallow his frustration and politely ask why the pet was brought in. The man explains that the lizard is sensitive to cold and falls off if you grab it by the leg. That only annoys Eugene more since no one in their right mind should be holding a lizard by the tail in the first place. Finally, the customer demands that his pet be made healthier, and since he doesn't look like the most trustworthy type, Eugene decides to run a full checkup. As he holds the lizard, he notices it is struggling to shed its skin properly. Just then, the customer tells our boy to be gentle with Pojak as it could sometimes get aggressive given that it is from the streets, but it appears to be too late as the normal lizard turns out to be a salamander and is about to blast Eugene away with a fire breath, but luckily the new recruit shows up right on time and slams Eugene to the wall, saving his guts at the last second. Selena argues that she almost lost her boss on the first day, but Eugene wonders if getting hit by that fire would have been better than being slammed back to the wall like this. When Selena asks where the customer has gotten this salamander and tells him that it is illegal to capture salamanders here, the customer refuses to let go of his pet and runs away with it. Eugene, however, refuses to let his first customer leave without treatment and asks Selena to run after him. The scene shifts to the market, where the fruit seller lady feels genuinely happy because the Lord's rabbit is finally gone. She thinks that since the Lord himself plays around with the rabbit now, her little shop will not get wrecked anytime soon for at least a while. Just as she starts feeling relieved, she notices a man hugging a salamander while being chased by Eugene and his tired employee. Eugene looks exhausted from running and begs him desperately to stop. The fruit shop lady stares at them with wide eyes and does not understand what is going on, though she decides it is better to keep her nose out of it since the whole thing looks terrifying to her. The customer cries loudly as he runs and thinks about why everyone always wants to separate him from his precious pet. While running with all his might, he consoles the salamander and tells it not to worry because this is simply a trial for their love and no one can ever hope to separate them. On the other hand, Eugene says in a desperate tone that the salamander has to shed its skin, but the customer stubbornly keeps running. The scene then shifts to a street corner where Eugene leans back on a wall to catch his breath. He argues that the creep was insanely fast and Selena simply advises him to start doing more exercise so that he might keep up next time. Selena then asks Eugene if the salamander was truly unable to shed its skin. Eugene replies yes and adds that the worst thing is that 2 or 3 layers have already built up, which means they absolutely need to peel them off quickly. Selena argues that if this is the case, they really need to hurry because if a salamander cannot shed its skin, the fire inside is going to lead to a major rampage. She further explains that a salamander rampage is extremely dangerous as it may not only destroy its owner but this entire area too. After hearing this, Eugene grows a little anxious and argues that it should be around here somewhere close and they need to find it quickly. The scene shifts to the customer who has finally hidden himself in his shabby home and is now certain that no one can ever separate him from his precious Pojak. The customer gently puts his pet on a table and consoles it by saying it is okay now. He says no one can separate them and he even wishes to write a song about this moment. At that moment, he gets an idea and he thinks it is going to be a masterpiece. He announces that they will declare this love of a century in a song that he starts writing and singing very softly. Then he shifts his eyes back to Pojak to ask how it is. Suddenly, Pojak opens its mouth wide and lets out a huge breath of fire. The customer falls down because of the sudden explosion. When he stands up, he sees his whole house has caught fire. In a state of shock, he asks Pojak what happened and further asks if he did this. While feeling sad, he asks if it is angry about something and how it could set a fire like this. He moves his hand toward Pojak and says it is dangerous, so they need to get out quickly. When he tries to catch it, Pojak opens its mouth, and right before the salamander could shoot him with another fire attack, Selena arrives and saves him, while Eugene rushes forward and catches Pojak and closes its mouth. Our hero then asks Selena if the rampage means that the salamander is going to attack people too. Selena responds that Pojak has completely lost its mind, and if they leave it, it will release even more fire. Just when Eugene thinks of a fire extinguisher, his necklace activates and it gets created out of nowhere. He quickly uses it on Pojak and it actually works and chills out the lizard with anger issues, making our boy realize that his necklace is actually quite useful. Selena says it has been suppressed to some extent and asks Eugene if he is alright. The customer is shocked and realizes this fire was all because of Rampage, otherwise Pojak would not attack him, and that this is what happens if it does not shed its skin. He now understands and argues that he will take better care of Pojak from now on. After hearing this, Eugene wonders if this man is out of his mind and asks him if that is all he has to say about this situation. The customer says not to worry because his feelings for Pojak have not changed and they can always just rebuild the house even if it burns down again. Eugene shouts at him with anger, saying if this went on any longer, the neighbor's house would have burned and people would have gotten hurt. The guy insists that he will take good care of Pojak moving forward, but he says that is not the point right now and feels very disappointed about it. He then tells him he should not raise wild animals carelessly and further adds that these wild animals need an environment where they can actually live. Selena explains further that to take in one animal and raise it just because it is cute, God knowing its ecology is not affection. She asks the customer if it rampages again and asks him if he is confident that he can control it on his own. After knowing this, the customer feels guilty about everything. By looking at Pojak, Eugene advises him in a calm tone that life cannot be raised just with affection. The scene then shifts to a forest where Pojak's complexion looks better after it has shed its skin. However, it seems to have gotten quite a bit bigger. Eugene asks how that big thing fits inside its old skin and Selena simply labels it as some weird mystery of nature. The customer gets on his knees feeling sad. He thinks Pojak has become so relaxed and does not need his help anymore. He tries to convince himself that it is returning to the vast nature that can embrace its existence. With tears of joy, he tells Pojak to be happy and he is only letting it go because he loves it, and then it tells him to keep thinking of him sometimes. He promises to come by every day and leave food. Ojin watches while covering his own ears with his fingers and tells the customer he should stop before Pojak loses his wild instincts. While crying, the customer says that in their hearts they will always be together without any regrets. Selena tries to cheer him up and tells him that salamanders do not have a concept of owner and it probably just saw him as a slave who gives it food. The customer asks if that is supposed to be comforting. Selena further says maybe it thought he was just a slave who fed him and cleaned up its poo. The salamander then goes to a cliff and breathes fire into the air, which creates a beautiful firework art display in the sky. Seeing this, the customer cries in joy and knows it is his Pojak. He feels truly amazed. After this, Ojin's first patient's salamander treatment is finally complete. The scene then shifts to the town square beside a fountain. The customer introduces himself to the audience by saying his name is Roisha. He starts to sing a song about the wonderful magician with his choir girls and a drum player. Meanwhile, in the audience, Selena tells Ojin she heard Roisha is a pretty well-known singer around here. Ojin, however, could not help but wonder what he would do with such a messed-up song. The crowd enjoyed this awesome new song. One of them from the audience asks who the magician from the song is and says that they should take their pet to see him if it gets sick. Ojin feels a dream of being rich and says it is the first time he has been moved by music. A few days later, after the song was released, Ojin's clinic is crowded with people from outside. They are all asking when it will get open. Inside the hospital, Ojin is sitting while Selena stands beside him. Selena asks Ojin if she can quit as they have gotten an unexpected boom. 2 months later, outside his shop, another customer enters and informs the lady that her pet's checkup is over, while he honestly looks like someone who needs to get checked himself. After going through God knows how many patients, he figures that he has to make money while it is flowing and calls for the next patient to step right in. Ever since the incident with the salamander guy, the customers have not stopped coming, so business is looking pretty good. Both of them are shocked at the mountain of gold they manage to rake in almost every single day. That is why even when it is closing time, Selena tells the customers it is time to leave, but the doctor never turns away any chance to make money standing at the door. During the 2 months he has spent in this new world, he realized that cats and dogs are still the most popular pets even in another world, though the breeds range from normal ones to straight-up cursed cats with 10 eyes and dogs that would make excellent hot dogs. After a long day at work, Selena informs Ojin there is only one patient left, so he asks her what kind of animal it is, and she says it is a shaman dog, which were used as hunting dogs previously, but they have been trending as pets as well for the past few months, though they are still quite ferocious and attack their owners and everyone nearby. That is also why the poor guys get abandoned quite often. Having said that, she warns him to be careful since they can grow as tall as 6 feet and their claws and teeth have monstrous power that can bite through steel. Hearing that, our hero feels a little intimidated as he sees the shaman owner slowly walk toward him, but his tension quickly melts away when the adorable ball of fluff hops out of the cage as tiny as it is, and his assistant says she forgot to mention that the puppy was only 3 months old. The owner says her baby has been limping a lot, so she thinks it might be hurt somewhere, but my guy stares in total confusion because he cannot see any legs at all. He grabs the fluff ball and takes a closer look to check if it even has legs, and turns out there's a tiny splinter stuck in one of its paws. After he removes it, the fluffer instantly cheers up and starts jumping around, looking like the balls of wool his grandma made sweaters with. Once the customer leaves, his face drops on the desk and Selena asks him if he is happy because he thought the shaman puppy was cute or because he is finally finished with work. Hearing such a strange question, he asks Selena why she is curious, and the lady says she cannot believe that something other than money makes him happy, but Ojin corrects her that he is actually happy because none of the patients were seriously ill. He remembers that the toughest part of his job was always watching over and taking care of terminally ill animals. It hurt him to see them in pain when he worked so hard to treat their problems, so it made him want to beat up the careless owners when he saw them cheer up there that their pets are healthy again, because they made the poor animals like that in the first place, and that is how he developed a habit of chewing out irresponsible owners. With that thought, he tells Selena to close up before the sun sets, when a pale man suddenly bangs his hands against the window with a ghostly expression. He repeatedly yells Kim's name and begs him to help like some crazy stalker, so he asks Selena if she knows how to exorcise ghosts, but she tells him physical attacks should do just fine. At that moment, the man tries to jump in through his window, so he goes in to smack the threat away. But the man does an Uno reverse and kidnaps him, instead as his assistant quietly stares in disappointment at the weakling she still calls boss. Later in the forest, the man apologizes to him because he did not expect the doctor would be so pathetic that he cannot even hike up a hill without getting wasted. Looking like a zombie himself, Ojin asks the man who the heck he is supposed to be, so the man introduces himself as a civil servant named Shvine, and then moves on to the reason why he kidnapped Master Kim. He smashes his head onto the ground and commends the master who calmed down the Lord's rabbit monster, before he desperately requests our hero to capture a stray dog for him. Ojin stares in confusion on hearing that, and Selena suddenly arrives on the scene, saying they do not run an animal rescue business and only treat animals. However, Shvine says he does not have much time because the dog made an area in the middle of the mountainous territory 2 months before, and as luck would have it, that is the place he is supposed to make a trail through. He says it was far too fast for his team to capture, and Ojin gets curious about why he is being so serious about catching it. The man reveals that if rescue is not possible, a team will be sent to put the dog down in a not-so-animal-friendly way. Shvine repeats that there really is not much time left and begs him for his help once again. Seeing how desperate the old man is, he thinks it over a while and asks Shvine to take him to the dog. As he scratches his head in frustration, our hero says that he is only a vet with no experience in capturing wild animals, but he would still like to check it out first. Hearing that, the old man cheers up and tells him it is nearby, while Ojin reminds him he is only going to take a look, though Selima is already pretty sure that is not the case. Shvine leads them deeper into the forest and explains that it never leaves its territory for some reason, and the moment our boy's eyes land on the ferocious beast, he asks his assistant, and she confirms it is no doubt a full-grown shaman dog and repeats her words that while many are raised because it is the new hype, just as many get abandoned because of their aggressive nature. As the dog gets into a battle stance, our hero figures it probably has not eaten right since it spent 2 months out in the wild on its own. Just then, he hears a loud noise echo through the forest and wonders if it could be a monster. And that is when the dog suddenly freaks out and comes charging at him with its jaws wide open, ready to bite a chunk off. Right on time, Selena yanks him out of the way and bolts off while carrying 2 grown men in her hands like they are shopping bags. That makes Ojin panic because running away with your back turned at a dog is the biggest rookie mistake you can possibly make. But his assistant fires back, asking if she was really supposed to just stand there and watch him get rabies. He tells her the dog is angry and they need to distract it so it calms down, but by that point, the dog suddenly stops in place and then turns away like it was never even angry. Seeing that, he asks Selena why it would stop chasing him if shamans are meant to be relentless hunting dogs, and it makes no sense why a starving one would just let its prey slip away when it was already closing the distance. Meanwhile, the dog quietly returns to its special little spot, and Selena says there is no way to understand what it is thinking, but Shvine explains the dog only chases after people who get too close, and that is exactly why everyone from the nearby village keeps complaining about it. Our hero has a light bulb moment after hearing that and asks the man what exactly the villagers complain about, and the old man explains there is a crazy dog that keeps barking all day up in the mountains, so they want the nuisance captured already. Still, Ojin asks Shvine if the dog ever actually bit anyone, and the man replies that is obvious, but after thinking it over for a moment, he feels surprised since there was no single complaint about someone getting hurt. Then, our hero turns to his assistant and asks if shaman dogs are famous for their loyalty, and she confirms, wondering if he just had a big brain moment. However, when the two head into the nearby village, Selena asks him why they went shopping instead of solving the dog problem, to which he replies that his main goal is to track down the dog's last known owner. She looks surprised to hear that he wants to do something so extra when they could simply use food bait and a trap for the starving stray dog and easily catch it, but he makes it clear that food alone is never enough to trick a loyal dog. Our boy explains that the only reason why the hunting dog was so skinny is that there must be something more precious to it than food, like the order of its owner. He guesses the owner might have ordered the dog to stay on guard and not leave the area before he promised he will return later. He shares that there was scum like that back in his own world, people who ordered their dogs to stay in one place and left them behind, so they could get rid of them without doing anything directly. The dude later asks an old couple if they have any leads, but the ladies only complain, and the people they question after that give answers just as useless and unhelpful. With absolutely zero real clues from the full investigation, our protagonist starts to wonder if the owner might not even live anywhere in this village, and he wonders aloud how strange it feels that nobody seems to know a single thing about the actual owner. Hearing that, a girl walks up to him and asks if he is the one searching for the dog's owner, Jake, and she surprises Ojin by offering to show him where the owner is. Later, she guides the two toward a house hidden deep in the forest far away from the village, which explains why nobody ever really knew about the guy. Our boy knocks on the door, but the girl quietly tells him the man is not inside. She explains he is in the backyard, where a solitary tombstone with no name is placed. The girl sadly explains that Jake was a kind-hearted man even though he always lived alone, and he passed away in a natural disaster around 2 months earlier. Everything clicks into place the moment Eugene hears her mention 2 months, and the girl says she feels it is sad that everyone blames the dog's owner. She says he never abandoned it, he simply could not take the poor thing back home anymore. After a heavy stretch of silence, the girl admits she tried to bring his dog Max back home herself, but nothing she did ever worked. With that said, she asked our hero directly if he can save Max for her, and after Eugene pays his respect at Max's owner's grave, he swears to her he will bring Max home safely, no matter what it takes. Later that day at sunset, Shvine trembles nervously as he speaks to a group of men, saying they came a little earlier than needed, to which the men reply that they wrapped up their last job fast, so they want to finish this one before heading back as well. Shvine tries to convince them to relax and return the next day, but the gunman in front firmly tells him he does not feel like waiting, so he will gladly handle the easy job since he knows a few things about hunting wild animals. He argues the villagers all hate it anyway, so there is surely nobody who would mind if they simply put it down earlier than planned. Back at the owner's house, our hero notices on entering that the room is filled with the strong smell of herbs and a framed photo of Jake together with Max. Next, he tells Selena to take anything she can find that might still have Jake's scent on it, so she quickly grabs some of his clothes. Looking closely at the adorable photo of the dog and owner, Eugene wonders what must have happened to the pair that was once so close for Jake to order his loyal puppy to stay alone in the forest. Stelina points out a poster stuck on the wall and says the herbalist was probably outside searching for a mandrake. Our boy thinks he has seen them before in a movie back on Earth, and his assistant goes on to explain that they are strange plants that look like a diglet, but they scream louder than a car alarm blasting at 3 in the morning. His assistant adds that they are extremely difficult to track down, and a herbalist can only really dream about finding one. Hearing that, Eugene suddenly gets an idea. Back in the forest, Max remembers the day when there were heavy rain clouds overhead and he was waiting patiently for his master, and the two ended up stuck together inside a cave because of a sudden thunderstorm. His owner wondered if they should set up camp until the rain stopped, and when the old man noticed his boy shivering badly from the cold, he wrapped his cloth around him just to keep him warm. That made the good boy so happy that he gave him a tight hug, and the two waited together for the storm to pass. A few moments later, Jake spotted a strange plant nearby and wondered if it really was what he thought it could be. He stepped closer to inspect it and became sure from the shape and color of the leaves that it was a mandrake. He was amazed that he got the rare chance to see one outside the pages of books. With that thought in mind, the man told Max he would head back home so he could grab the tools needed to harvest it, which instantly made the good boy very sad. However, he made it clear Max could not come with him since he was still feeling cold and promised he would return soon since home was not too far away. At that moment, the man believed it was the luckiest day of his life when he got to touch grass that screams like Goku going Super Saiyan 3. He left Max in the cave after that. But on his way down, the man watched his life flash before his eyes as a landslide came crashing down and completely crushed him underneath. Once the rain finally stopped, Max quietly sat waiting at the cave entrance. A week later, 2 villagers happened to pass by, and the boy was shocked to see the dog still sitting there patiently after a whole week. They assumed it had been abandoned, and the girl thought it would be nice to feed the poor boy, but Max became angrier with every step closer. Seeing that, the two instantly booked it and thought that the dog's horrible attitude was probably the real reason its owner ditched it in the woods. After that, Max returned to the cave entrance and faithfully guarded the mandrake inside because he is a real one through and through. Back in the present, the hunter group steadily makes its way toward the cave where the loyal dog stands guard. As their leader comes face to face with the dog, he notices just how angry it looks, so he asks his team if they brought tranquilizers. Realizing they are wasting no time, Shmine desperately tries to distract them by asking if they can wait at least 1 more hour because he paid someone to save the dog in a humane way that would not cause every vegan nearby to collapse from stress. Shmine also insists there was never a single complaint that the dog harmed anyone, but the hunter shoots him a cold side eye and bluntly asks if his job is to sit around listening to his clients yapping. Even though he admits it is sad, he makes it clear that his job is to make sure everyone in the community stays safe, and he slowly locks his gun right onto the dog's head. With his finger resting on the trigger, the man prepares to solve the problem once and for all, but suddenly, a hand grabs his gun and pushes it down. Selena steps in and tells him he is being far too quick, and firmly tells him to wait like a good little boy while Eugene steps forward to rescue the dog himself. Max's anger vanishes instantly when he recognizes a familiar face telling him he has waited a long time and now is finally time to get back home. The good boy wags his tail harder than ever and he starts barking with excitement as he leaps up to hug his owner, but Ojin apologizes because he cannot be the one he was waiting for all along. Despite that, the doctor wearing Jake's clothes gently pats Max on the head and says it is time for them to finally go back home. The scene then shifts to a deer that is running at full speed. She tries to catch her breath while her body shivers. However, she soon notices an ominous shadow lurking around a tree. A golden eye glows bright as the unknown predator stalks its prey in the night. The next day, a worried guardian hurriedly brings his pet loafer, Pinkping, and yells that it will not move at all. Ojin looks at the pudgy ball of fluff in disbelief and says that the little bundle of cuteness is simply too fat to budge. The owner keeps ranting in frustration, but our boy calmly reassures him that the hamster will be fine once it loses a bit of weight. After that, the next visitor makes his way in, and a familiar face greets our hero with a cheerful smile. Sean explains that Max came down from the mountain but still does not understand that his lifelong partner has passed away. The loyal dog never once left the gravestone behind, however, he slowly opened up to Shvine over time, who has cared for him since. Ojin asks if something happened to Max, but the administrator clarifies that he has another problem as one of his lackeys sets a large wooden box on the table. There is a sleeping mandrake inside a container, which looks disgruntled as hell. Selena suddenly takes an interest and remarks that it is strange for its roots to remain above the soil since they are normally buried deep in the ground. In memory of Jack, his family decided to keep the mandrake as a keepsake. However, once they placed it inside this pot, it grew upward out of the soil and then stopped halfway. Shaman complains that the mandrake now screams day and night, even when they tried burying it properly again. They eventually reached their breaking point after testing everyone's patience to the absolute limit, as well as dealing with several ruptured eardrums. Selena then drops some random info that some mandrakes are extremely picky with their environment and can become an unbearable nuisance once they begin their endless opera sessions. Shvine begs the doctor to take the screaming plant away, but Ojin reminds him that he only deals with animals and not plants. The old man insists that it must be a demon in disguise, however, our boy hits him with sarcasm by telling him to take it to the church instead. Just then, the mandrake wakes up from all the yapping, and the old man, along with his helpers, bolts out of there while our hero yells at him to wait. He then shouts out every known insult there is that could even make the devil blush. Meanwhile, Selena opens the lid. She calmly reminds Ojin that every part of a mandrake is valuable since its products are said to enhance vitality. He questions if this is really a good idea, but just then, she interrupts him that is finally waking up. The two clamp their ears tightly to protect their eardrums, but nothing happens. Ojin notices the mandrake slowly opening its eyes and wonders if it is inhaling so much because it wants to let loose. He regrets not bringing the noise-canceling headphones with him to this new world, especially since he had to take a loan for them. The mandrake's attitude takes a complete turn, and it begins crushing hard on Ojin, leaving him completely confused. He wonders what the hell is happening. To which Selena states the obvious, that the plant really likes him. Wanting to confirm a theory, she asks him to take out his necklace. He complies, but still does not understand what is going on, while the mandrake starts fangirling over him even more. The screaming plant then suddenly breaks into a happy dance, which confuses him even further. Ojin immediately gets reminded of that annoying wiggly plant from his old life and cringes at the thought. Selena notices his disgusted expression, but then orders him anyway to raise the plant in his room, though he does not seem convinced that this is a good idea. Later that night, a worried pet owner slams on his clinic's door and shouts for him to come out. He wakes up from his well-earned sleep and grumbles that he will charge extra, but the woman at the door does not care. She rushes in with her little puppy, which has severe claw injuries across his body. Ojin asks what happened, but quickly panics when he notices the bleeding is too severe to stop. Out of nowhere, Selena appears and explains that mandrake leaves are extremely useful for stopping blood loss. He then asks her to bring a leaf, however, the plant doesn't look too happy with the idea and stares at her as if she has lost her mind. Seeing the plant square up, Selena advises Ojin to take the leaf himself. He finds the idea weird as hell, but he shyly asks anyway if he can take a leaf. The mandrake looks more than happy to share as it rips one out while moaning loudly. Meanwhile, Ojin looks completely traumatized by what is happening. After some time, the procedure to stop the bleeding succeeds and the puppy finally gets some well-deserved rest. The owner bursts into tears seeing her pet safe, while Ojin advises her to bring it back for checkups every now and then. With the job done, he finally decides to return to sleep, but only half an hour later, another person shows up at his door shouting for him. This time, it is a baby deer with the same type of injuries, which deeply worries our hero. He notes that these wounds are not from hunting, but rather they are from a savage beast toying with its prey like a lunatic. The girls wonder if lunatic is the name of some monster, but our hero simply plays along since he is too tired to correct them. Just then, the little girl shouts that she knows who is responsible, while her sister tries to calm her down. According to her, the most likely culprit is Baron Doyle's pet wolf. With tears rolling down her face, she explains that the Baron takes his pet on walks, where it has been known to bully helpless animals for fun. Eugene gets furious when he hears the cause and wonders aloud if there are no animal protection laws here that can punish such behavior. He scratches his head in anger while yelling out random gibberish, but quickly shifts his focus back to treating the baby deer, as the bleeding is severe. Even after 7 days, similar cases of injuries keep piling up, which is really doing a number on his sleep schedule. Eugene nearly loses it from the non-stop lack of sleep and finally decides to take matters into his own hands. He marches straight to the Baron's residence and demands that the man show himself. A restless crowd is already protesting outside, with our hero leading from the front. Just then, the heavy doors creak open and the Baron's personal guards step out, instantly silencing everyone. The head guard scans the crowd and calls out that they are looking for the vet. Eugene breaks into a sweat and nervously declares that he is the one they want. To his surprise, the guards bow before him and announce that they will escort him to the castle, leaving him more confused than ever. Eugene gets even more surprised when he finds out that the Baron's pet wolf is suffering from the exact same injuries. Doyle sobs uncontrollably and begs to pay any price as long as they save his precious manhwa, while our hero wonders what in the world is actually going on. The next day, the whole town is buzzing with rumors that some new magical beast has shown up in the forest and even unalive the Baron's pet wolf. One random NPC starts hyping it up as a man-eating monster, while a couple nearby panics that they will be forced to leave the village. Just then, a brave citizen steps forward and announces to everyone that the Baron himself has issued a request to hunt this giant beast. A massive trap has already been set in the forest, and soldiers are ordered to patrol the area. The villagers immediately start singing praises of the Baron, but our boy just side-eyes the whole scene since he already knows the actual story. What really happened was that the Baron threw a tantrum like a spoiled child and refused to do it until one of his subordinates promised to talk to the captain. Watching people celebrate, Eugene finds it amusing that fake media schemes are thriving in an old-fashioned world like this. Selena points out that he looks tense, and he replies that something feels off since all the animals that were attacked so far were near the eastern forest, close to the village. What makes it stand out even more is that Magma was injured deep in the western forest, which is far from the village, and yet the Baron's soldiers are treating the western side as the only priority for this extermination request. It makes sense to scout where the most recent attack happened, but completely ignoring the eastern forest feels extremely wrong. Selena agrees and adds that the villagers never set foot in the western forest anyway. She explains that the place is wrapped in ghost stories and creepy tales. This catches his interest, but before he can ask her more, the glass worker suddenly pops up and invites them in. Inside, he proudly presents the syringes Eugene had ordered, which instantly blows our boy away with the beautiful craftsmanship. The glass worker explains that each syringe was made with extreme caution for detail and with high-grade materials. Eugene is stunned by the flawless work, but the glass worker warns him that it took all the effort he could muster and cannot attempt something like this ever again. Our boy brushes off what the guy said and instead offers him a big reward for his effort, which instantly makes the glass worker fold and accept him as his new client without a second thought. Along with the syringes, our hero also got a drip dispenser, a measuring tool, and even a hospital cage for animals. While going through the hospital's blueprints, he explains his renovation plans, which catch Selena's attention, and he inwardly flexes his modern knowledge skills just to taunt her. A voice then calls out as a group of guys carrying boxes of herbs walk into the clinic. Selena immediately starts explaining each herb, pointing out one that works as a sleep inducer, another as a painkiller, plus ones for stomach pain, coughing, and antiseptic use. Our hero checks the notes and gets absolutely blown away by the fact that some herbs here can reduce blood pressure, lower sugar, and even cure cancer or dementia. Eugene realizes on the spot that modern medicine has nothing on these herbs. Just then, Pio bursts open the clinic door and shouts at our hero to hurry because the monster has finally been caught. The scene then shifts to the forest, where the Baron makes his way toward the captured beast. The growling sounds make our hero tense up and wonder what terrifying animal it could be. A soldier suddenly yells out that the beast broke free from the trap and orders everyone to drive it into a corner before it escapes again. They soon spot the monster's shadow hiding behind a tree, and the wolves immediately charge at it. Seeing the looming figure, our hero questions if this is really the beast, only for it to turn out to be a tiny spicy kitty cat. Everyone freezes in a collective bruh moment as they just stand there, and Eugene finally speaks up to tell the Baron that it is clearly just an ordinary street cat. The Baron refuses to believe it and yells that it is definitely the beast as he points to Magma, who looks terrified of it. Baron Doyle insists the cat has razor-sharp, oversized claws and teeth that cause all the injuries. Eugene looks irritated as hell and thinks this is the classic case where the victim gets bullied until they finally lash out in self-defense. Just then, the Baron's men throw a net over the poor thing and start using weights to hold it in place, while our hero internally rages that they are only hurting it more. A voice then shouts to burn the wretched monster, which drains the color from his face, but the Baron has an even darker plan in mind and tells his soldiers to drag the tiny kitty into the village and publicly execute it. Our hero can hardly believe what he is hearing as he stares at the smug looks on the soldiers' faces, thinking this is straight-up animal abuse, so he decides it is time to flip the switch. Eugene falls into a sudden flashback to his past life, where two kids once brought in a local friendly street cat that had been brutally injured. The boy told him that someone had done it on purpose, which nearly made Eugene lose his mind since animal abusers rank at the very top of his hate list. Snapping back to reality, the spicy little furball is already tearing through the nets, and a soldier yells to trap it again before it escapes. Out of nowhere, Eugene shouts for everyone to stop and to cover their faces immediately, which catches the entire crowd off guard. He points dramatically to the black kitty and yells at everyone to look closely at its forehead, declaring that it carries the mark of a demon. The Baron and even Selena look doubtful of what he just claimed, but our hero keeps pushing and points to the letter M marked on its head along with the scar above it. Channeling every ounce of his acting skills, he declares that this is, without a doubt, the curse mark of Garona, the one destined to bring the end of the world. No one seems convinced by the Oscar-worthy performance of our hero, and the Baron then demands to know who the hell Garona even is. After butchering the name of Corona, Eugene smoothly explains that the plague first infects rats, which are considered devout followers of the demon, and afterward it passes into cats once they eat them. According to him, the cats then become even stronger carriers of the plague, which has now appeared on this land. Suddenly, his tone shifts and his expression turns grave as he warns that once the plague spreads in full swing, half the population here will be wiped out. The guards are clearly not buying his nonsense, but Dial interrupts and orders them to stop as he slowly takes the bait. Baron Dial narrows his eyes at our hero and asks if any of this is even true, to which Eugene confidently declares that the same tragedy happened in his homeland. The entire world had to wage war against the disease before it was finally defeated. The Baron then presses him further, asking if the cat really is a servant of that demon, and Eugene boldly answers that it is, but since it is still a child, it can be suppressed with a cure. He then shoots a look at Selena, tossing the most unconvincing wink mankind has ever seen as he practically begs her to back him up. She takes the hint and states that it is indeed possible to craft a cure by mixing the beast's blood with the right combination of herbs. Eugene looks at the Baron's cold expression and wonders if he might have stretched the story just a little too far. The captain quietly tries to reason with Baron Dial that this entire tale is obviously fake, but the noble takes the bait and declares that Eugene has 7 days to heal a beast. After that, he is to bring it to the castle where it will be executed. The scene then shifts back to their clinic, where our hero finally breathes a sigh of relief and thanks his assistant for lying for him. However, Selena suddenly states that she did not lie at all, and that a cure really can be made using the creature along with mandrake. She goes on to explain that a single one will not be enough, and they would need to grind up at least 100 mandrakes, which terrifies the screaming plant out of its leafy mind. She then asks our hero why he even wanted to save the little kitty in the first place, who at this moment is sedated on a cushion. Eugene finally reveals that the creature is not the one responsible for injuring the village animals. He pulls out the records of all the wounds he has been tracking and points out that the animals here all shared similar injuries, while Magma's wounds were entirely different. The length, shape, and depth of the claw marks clearly suggest that the village animals were attacked by another beast altogether. Selena then realizes that it was Magma who harmed the other animals, and the black cat must have simply fought back against the wolf. Eugene agrees with her reasoning but adds that something about the whole picture still does not fit. Up to this point, the Baron had always used his authority to cover up Magma's actions, but all of a sudden, he is eager to pin everything on a different creature and even issued an extermination quest. Eugene slips into full detective mode and states that this hunt was just a smokescreen and the real target might actually have been the cat all along. Selena adds that it does make sense since the Baron tried hard to capture the beast and also swallowed Eugene's ridiculous story without much resistance. The scar on the cat's forehead does not seem like a normal wound either, and the large number of healed injuries around its legs looks far too unsettling to ignore. Eugene firmly declares that he will uncover the truth and find out exactly what the poor cat has been through all this time. This sudden change in tone pleasantly surprises Selena, who until now thought of him as nothing more than a power-hungry vet. Yet when she sees him bend down with his buns sticking out and sniff the cat like a true lunatic, she changes her mind instantly and concludes he is just plain old bat crazy. The next morning, loud roars echo from the clinic, scaring everyone passing by who wonder what on earth is happening. One NPC then blurts out that the vet Eugene is battling a demon inside and purifying it from the plague. Hearing this, everyone goes completely shocked and starts claiming that he must be a sorcerer from another world. A crowd gathers outside and starts to cheer for our hero, while they remain blissfully unaware that Eugene is frantically trying to feed the little black kitty. The cat refuses the offering and swats him straight across the face. The spicy feline growls like a diesel engine, and Selena notes that it looks far smaller than when it first arrived. Eugene nods in agreement and points out that even its body is shrinking, which is probably from losing mana from its body. He states his concern that the poor cat hasn't eaten anything in the last 3 days, since it keeps getting angrier from hunger, which only burns more energy and makes it more hungry. The cat is trapped in a vicious cycle that will eventually destroy it. He desperately wishes for some churu to pop in his hand, and to his surprise, he suddenly starts to feel a tingling sensation in his chest. The necklace glows as a familiar packet of feline goodness materializes in midair and even opens on its own. The flying churu too shoots straight to the cat's mouth, who immediately calms down and starts munching happily. Our hero holds the cat up as he feeds and coddles it like a devoted parent, while Selena just deadpans in the background. As the cat eats, the letter M on its forehead changes its color to blue. Selena notices this and is taken by surprise, and then thinks to herself that everything suddenly makes sense now that the cat they rescued isn't actually a cat at all. We now shift to story mode to a mystic creature known as the Monoceros. During the time when the dragons vanished and the world overflowed with mana, these mythical beasts were treated as sacred animals. Wherever a Monoceros touched with its horn, dry lands would burst into fountains of water and dark regions would be showered in light. All these miracles were possible thanks to the creature's heart, which could continuously regenerate mana. It was also said that their horn served as an entry point through which mana could flow in and out, and that anyone who touched it gained immortality. When the mana famine struck, the number of these mythical beasts dropped down, and to survive, they transformed into smaller animals. However, they never lost their pride, and as a result, none were ever tamed except for one person who is believed to be the spirit of healing. Coming back to reality, our hero praises his new pet Sunja for using the litter box correctly and rewards her with more churu. He holds her in his lap as she happily slurps the treat, while Selena wonders if this is really alright. The scene then shifts to the Baron's house, where he is caught off guard that the cat is now happily eating. The spy informs the Baron that the vet was holding her in his arms and she's enjoying some food very happily. Baron Dial tries to process this, but then the captain interrupts and reports that the soldiers are becoming agitated. The captain asks if the beast is truly an ordinary cat, but the Baron goes deep in thought instead. He recalls that a Monoceros cannot be tamed by humans, even if it has lost nearly all its powers. In the worst-case scenario, the mana inside the beast could turn into poison, which can cause it to explode and spread a plague capable of threatening entire nations. He then recalls Eugene's warning that a plague like this occurred where he is from, but still feels conflicted, since it is a known fact that the mythical beast never eats anything a human offers. He wonders if the wretched vet knows something he doesn't. Coming back to the clinic, Pio handles the job of a clerk and guides patients to the examination room. Our hero happily watches her deal with an elderly pet owner and thinks that this is what an actual clinic should be like. Up until this point, Selena was the one in charge, who was exceptionally rude to all the patients, resulting in poor customer satisfaction. When things do not go her way, she normally solves all her problems with violence, and worst of all, she takes random half-day leaves and walks straight out of the clinic without any reason. Then a few days ago, she took a sudden leave for several days without so much as a warning, and what infuriates Eugene even more is her neat, printer-like handwriting. He holds the letter in his hands and states that this should be enough evidence to fire someone. To make ends meet, he hires Pio, who lives nearby, and offers to pay 2 silver coins per hour, which she instantly accepts. It is a really good choice because, unlike Selena, she provides top-notch customer care and is extremely fond of animals. On top of that, she is extremely hardworking and always wants to help those around her, which makes our hero seriously consider hiring her full-time. Coming back to reality, Eugene realizes it is extremely quiet today, because normally the pets would constantly make a lot of noise and try to fight one another. He wonders what made them quiet today while being completely unaware that Sunja is giving the animals the death stare. Sometime later, the boy from earlier brings his pet Floper back, who has now increased considerably in size. Back then, the hamster was just half a kilogram. but now it looks like it weighs over 10. Ojin stares at it in disbelief and asks if the hamster is a panda instead, but the boy corrects him that it is a floper, which makes our hero remember that they don't call them hamsters in this world. The boy then seems suspicious of the doctor since he doesn't know what a floper is, but Pio cuts in to save the day and says that Dr. Ojin comes from another world, so he isn't familiar with the terms. She continues that it is the very reason he can diagnose diseases that not even the doctors here can. Extremely happy with her quick thinking, our hero hires the girl full-time on the spot. Coming back to the floper, he asks the boy how the little guy got so big. The animal seems healthy all over, which makes him wonder if this is due to some kind of magic. Meanwhile, Sunja side-eyes the pudgy ball like it is a quick snack and immediately pounces on it. The floper suddenly realizes that it is alive and for no apparent reason splits into 3 tiny versions of itself. The transformation leads to jaws dropping throughout the room, and Ojin nearly has a mental breakdown as this defies the laws of physics, all the while the hamsters live act the Spider-Man meme. The boy looks like he is about to have a panic attack while our hero tries to resolve the situation. Unexpectedly, the boy gets overjoyed and hugs the 3 flopers tightly, claiming that he always wanted his pet to have a family. He wonders what he should name the 3, all the while the cute, chubby balls of fluff struggle to breathe. All of a sudden, the floppers manage to escape and jump all over the room like pinballs at an arcade and are too fast for anyone to catch them. Selena arrives to save the day as she effortlessly catches all 3 of them, and then states that this isn't a flopper. She continues that it is a bloob and then asks the boy where he got it from. The boy explains that he doesn't know either and got the pet from his father as a gift, then asks if it is a demonic creature. Selena puts the 3 troublemakers into the cage to get them treated, but the boy starts to panic. She then reassures him, or rather scares him away, that she isn't going to dissect them. Ojin steps in and reassures the boy that they do not perform any unethical practices here and will not do anything without the guardian's consent. Sometime later, Selena drops the lore that bloobs are not animals that spawn naturally, and are instead made by a mad sorcerer as an experiment. This catches our hero by surprise, and he finds it surprising that mad scientists exist in this world too. She then states that the person isn't bad, but they cannot overlook their mistakes. Selena puts the cute hamster down in the cage and states that she was sure the bloobs had disappeared and never expected to find them in a place like this. She then wonders if it has been 100 years since she last saw one, which makes Ojin do a double take and ask her straight up if she's a grandma or something. All of a sudden, Sunja starts to growl aggressively, which confuses our hero, but then someone starts banging at the door. A voice calls out to Ojin to open it, which turns out to be Baron Dial and his goons who are standing outside the clinic with smug looks on their faces.